Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be comparing and contrasting the ACA Code of Ethics, the New Jersey Board of Marriage and Family Therapy Administrative Code found on www.consumeraffairs.com, regulations, and the informed consent form from the Opthoff Center for Psychotherapy in New Jersey. This was found on their website, www.opthoffpsychotherapy.com. The informed consent began with the therapist stating that it is a therapeutic practice in the state of New Jersey. Their consent form used some of the basic information that the ACA Code of Ethics and the regulations from the New Jersey Board of Marriage and Family Therapy Examiners. I feel that there were some areas that were not fully explained, and I would have many questions if I was a prospective client, but the document was very easy to read and understand. The therapist gave his background information and what his concentration was in college, as well as his experience. According to the ACA Code of Ethics, the counselor's statement of his education can be found in section C4C. This stated his degrees and what they were in. They also stated the schools he graduated from. This therapist completed this portion of the informed consent with a therapy he uses, which is the cognitive behavior therapy for most of his clients. But there's also other therapies he does use depending on the client and their treatment plan. This document that he wrote is intended to inform the client of policies, his policies, state and federal law, and the client's rights. If the client has any other questions, he always says that you can ask him and they could be discussed further. The therapist then explains the fees, which had the most detail from the consent form, the details of which can be found in Section A of the ACA Code of Ethics, specifically A10C and A10D, which describes establishing fees and non-payment. He states the length of time of the sessions, the session fees, cancellation procedure, and fees, and specifically states that the term emergency is not always an emergency to everyone, and payment is still mandatory. The explanation of fees also includes legal proceeding, telephone conversations, and authorized telephone consultations. And he says this because he's still working and giving his time, and he is also unable to see clients and have sessions with them if he's, doing these other things. The next area of informed consent focuses on the confidentiality. The ACA Code of Ethics, B1C, Respect for Confidentiality, states that the counselors protect the confidential information of the prospective and current clients. Counselors disclose this information only with the appropriate consent or with sound legal or ethical justification. The therapist discusses the client's confidentiality and privacy clause. This is found in the ACA Code of Ethics, Section B, specifically B1B, Respect for Privacy. The therapist states that everything that is said within the session is held confidential, but does disclose that there are exceptions to this rule, which is B1D of the ACA Code of Ethics and the New Jersey State Regulations 1334-8.3. In the Code of Ethics, B2 are the exceptions. The therapist does state that there are specific reasons that there would be a breach in confidentiality. There are some examples that are stated, but it specifically says that the examples are not the full complete list, and there are more, and that also can be spoken about during the session. The therapist also stated that anything that the client shares with others or uses email or mail service is not confidential. Normally, but everything else would be held confidential during a session. Some exceptions to confidentiality include situations in which there is reasonable suspicion of any of the following has ever occurred or is occurring now, which is you or your child present danger to self or others, a child or a dependent adult is a victim of abuse, neglect, or unjustified mental suffering. This also includes elder abuse and any form of other neglect. And then he again states that this is just examples, that there is a complete list of examples of confidentiality that, or exceptions to confidentiality that they can discuss further during a session. The ACA states, as well as the New Jersey requirements, that if the client has a contagious, life-threatening disease, that the counselor is justified to report it. There was nothing on this consent form that stated anything about this, but I think that is something that is important to discuss and should be on a consent form. The termination of services is the last part of the informed consent that this therapist discusses. In the ACA Code of Ethics, Section A11C discusses reasons for termination, and this therapist gives examples of specific reasons they would terminate, such as non-payment, persistent drug abuse, becoming enraged or threatening, and arriving to sessions under the influence. The therapist also states that termination will happen under normal circumstances if the client's goals are met and there's no additional need for services. New Jersey states this same information in subchapter 613-34-6.3. There were areas that I felt that the counselor could have added more information or were more specific. There was no mention of children or how they would work with them, or if he does work with them. I would have liked to see how the therapist keeps records, recordings, or other information that's obtained. There was nothing stated about the multicultural sensitivity. This is a very culturally diverse area that I live in, and I feel that it would make the prospective client feel more comfortable knowing that the counseling practice is open and understanding to their needs. Lastly, I am curious to see what the procedure would be if there was a death to the counselor or the counselor became unable to work. What is the procedure for the client? The question that I have is that he states that if somebody's under the influence or is taking drugs, that would be a cause for termination. I do feel that the safety of the therapist is top priority. If the client is coming because of drug abuse, then would the therapist do more harm by terminating services with the client and not continuing treatment? If the person was under the influence of, say, alcohol or taking a drug, but coming to therapy and wanting to stop and trying to stop, would that be an ethical reason to end treatment? Thank you, everybody, for listening to my video, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.